Hey guys, and welcome back to Gabbing with Jessa. I know I haven't really posted a lot in a while. I had a lot of studying to do for some major exams for my classes, and then when that was all done, I actually ended up losing my voice and I couldn't speak. So I just wanted to make sure that I made a good recovery before I posted anything else. Today I'm going to be doing a little bit of a wrap up for all of the movies that I've seen in 2019 in preparation for 2020. I will have all the movies that I have seen listed in the description below if that's something you're interested in. Now with AMC theaters, they kind of divide up their movies into Blockbuster and Artisan. Well, it's not really called Blockbuster, that's just what I'm calling it for this. According to AMC, they like to categorize some of their movies as artisan films, which is an artist-driven, thought-provoking movie that focuses on the art of filmmaking. So these are some of the smaller movies that may not be as widely advertised, but are still actually really good in turn. I will be naming my top 10 favorites from the Blockbuster category and my top 10 favorites from the Artisan category. I'll be starting with the Artisan films, and I'll be kicking off this top 10 with number 10 of Rocketman. Now, Rocketman was the story of Elton John, how he became to be, and honestly, like, I had heard a lot in Elton John songs before, but I didn't really realize they were like Elton John. I knew he was like Lion King, but some of the other songs that I actually really like, I didn't realize were Elton John. I'm not really a big music person, so that's why. But I loved this movie. I thought Taron Egerton did an absolutely amazing job, and it was just a lot of fun. It was bright colors, and there were sad moments in it too, but I thought it told a really good story of Elton John's life. Number 10 is The Current War. The Current War was the film starring Benedict Cumberbatch, Michael Shannon, Nicholas Hoult, and Tom Holland in the electricity current race against Thomas Edison and George Westinghouse about who had the better system, whether it was AC or DC, and the whole competition between that. It was a historical movie, and I'm not really a big fan of those, but I actually really did enjoy this movie. At some points it did kind of drag a little bit, but also it's really not that super interesting of a topic, and I thought that everyone did really well in it. It was the first time I had seen Tom Holland in anything besides the role of Spider-Man, and I thought he did really good in it as well. At number 8 is Dark Waters, starring Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway. This is the movie about the lawyer who discovered that Teflon was poisoning people in West Virginia after a poor farmer brought it up to him, and he wants to do everything that he can to take down the big chemical company of DuPont, even though he technically works for DuPont. And I thought it was a really interesting movie. It was something that, again, you don't really think about. It was kind of based on current events, and I really thought that Mark Ruffalo did a really good job in this. You can tell that he really dedicated himself to this role, and the story was really interesting to me, and so I really like that. At number 7 is the best movie of the year, I'm sorry, is Cats. Cats is the most absolute bonkers film that I have ever seen in my entire life. It is not good, but I loved every second of it. I have not stopped thinking about it since I've seen it. I am trying to beg more people to see it so I can talk about it with them, and oh my gosh. In no way is this like a good movie. I had so much fun in the theater though. I can't stop singing the songs, and I have so much just about the whole concept of Cats. And I loved it. I'm sorry, I loved it. I loved it. At number 6 is Brian Banks. Brian Banks is the story of the title character who is wrongly accused of rape and then is sent to jail. And while in jail, he tries to figure out how he can prove his innocence so he can be a free man and be able to play football. That's his big thing. He lost his scholarship because of this, and he just wants to play professional football. That's all he wants to do. And it's the story of him out of jail trying to figure out how to gain his freedom back. I thought the actor who played Brian Banks was absolutely amazing. I thought the story was really compelling and something that I had heard about before, but never really did much research into. And so I really liked how they brought that to life, and at some points it did make me tear up. It was really sad, but it did have a happy ending, so I'm really happy about that. At number 5 is Uncut Gems. Now, I saw this on Christmas Day. So as of filming this video, I still have yet to see the releases on Christmas Day, like Little Women and 1917 that would probably fall into this category. Oh my goodness, Adam Sandler, I think just did an absolutely amazing job. At certain points, I forgot it was actually Adam Sandler playing the role, and there was just a lot of twists and turns. Of course, we had Kevin Garnett in it, and I don't know if he's been in any movies before, but I thought he did a pretty good job. I mean, he was playing himself. I just think that the whole concept of it was really amazing. There was definitely an ending that I didn't expect, but I really like the way that we got there. And I know Adam Sandler's been talking about how he thinks he deserves an Oscar nomination, and if he doesn't, he's gonna make like the worst movie ever, which I kind of hope happens, but also I think he really does deserve this because he did an absolutely amazing job. It's completely different from anything else he has done, like Billy Madison or Happy Gilmore, and so I really give him props for that. At number 4 is The Farewell. Now, going into this movie, I had only seen previews up for it in the theaters. I didn't see anything on television or really broadcast online or anything like that. And that first trailer really got me. I'm like, wow, that actually looks really interesting. It's different. It stars Awkwafina in it, and she doesn't really play her normal, like, quirky, funny character kind of self. She plays a more modern, relaxed teenager, and I love this movie too. This one also had a little bit of a plot twist, which you wouldn't expect from a kind of movie like this, but it was just a very wholesome movie that I loved the entire time, and it just made me feel good after watching it. At number 3 is Jojo Rabbit. Now, when I first heard the concept for this, I was really excited for it. I mean, it's Taika Waititi as Hitler, because he's an imaginary friend for a little Nazi boy, and I knew it was going to be different, but it was really funny. I had a really good time in it, but it also was heartbreaking and heartwarming. It definitely took some turns, again, that I wasn't expecting, but it definitely was one of my favorite movies of the year. And even the two actors, the little boy who played Jojo and the little girl who played Elsa, who's the Jew that's living in the house that Jojo's mom is hiding there, I thought they did an absolutely amazing job. They had such great chemistry. They really were able to express themselves. It's really cool to see that from such young actors. Coming in at number 2 is Ford v Ferrari. Now, I'm not a big NASCAR racing car kind of person at all. I don't know, it just really doesn't appeal to me. But I saw this with my dad, not really knowing what to expect, and I loved it. Christian Bale and Matt Damon did a great job in their main roles, especially Christian Bale. I thought he did a really great job as the racer. And it's really interesting to see how much really goes into the car racing business and everything associated with that. Again, it's not something I was familiar with, but it's definitely something I became more interested in after the movie was over. Even if you're not a racing fan, I would highly recommend checking this out because it is great performances. It's a great story. Again, kind of based on past events, which I found out that I actually kind of like. I like seeing movies that are based on true events. And this was definitely something that was near the top of my list. But at number 1 is Joker. I was really surprised that AMC actually considered this an Artisan film, but hey, it is, so it's going at the top of this list. Now, I don't know much about anything with DC. I know that Joker is a villain of Batman, and they just took this movie and they just completely blew my mind. Now, this is different than anything Avengers style. This is more dark, this is more twisted, and I think this is the style that DC, like the DCEU, should be steering their movies towards, because this attracted people. It was the first R-rated movie ever, I believe, to reach $1 billion at the box office, so that just shows you that people want to see this. There was a lot of controversy of it, and I did do a Joker review based on the likes and dislikes from critics online, so if you want to see that, I'll have that video linked down below. But I did end up loving this movie a lot more than I thought I would, and I don't think they're making a Joker 2. I heard that they were, but then I heard that was like a rumor. But I definitely want to see Joaquin Phoenix in this role again, if possible. Now we're going to transition over into the blockbuster films. Now, this isn't officially called Blockbuster by AMC. I just didn't really have another word to put it in. There were a lot more in this category than there were in the Artisan film category that I saw. Again, I'll have all those in the different categories in the description below if you're interested in that. But we'll just get started at number 10, which is It Chapter 2. Now, 2 years ago when It Chapter 1 came out, I never read anything by Stephen King. I was interested in him, but I never really picked up a book by him. But this made me want to pick up It. I still haven't yet, but I am so excited to start reading it. I thought all the kid actors in Chapter 1 did very well. And then so I was really anticipating this movie. It was in my top 3 most anticipated movies of 2019. And unfortunately, I don't think it really lived up to how good chapter 1 was. A lot of the middle parts seemed repetitive. I'm not sure if that's how it is in the book. I'll have to check it out. I think one of the things that made this movie not as enjoyable for me as the first one was the length of it. Now, I know it's close to 3 hours, and Avengers Endgame was 3 hours long, but I was expecting it to be 3 hours long. I wasn't expecting this one to be 3 hours long. I saw it after a long day at work, so I wasn't expecting to get out that late, but I am still really happy that I saw it. I still had a really good time because I still love the characters, and I am excited to read the book, and this just made me more excited to read the book. At number 9, I had Frozen 2. Now, in the big debate of Frozen versus Tangled, I'm definitely more of a Tangled girl. I think the story is a lot better in Tangled than in Frozen, but I think the Frozen songs are a lot better. When I was going into Frozen 2, I was just kind of like, we'll see how it is. And I loved it. I loved this story so much better. I think that it had a very interesting plot. I like the twist that it took in it. I don't think the songs are going to be as sung as, something like Let It Go was, but I still really enjoyed the story of it. It felt like it was made for more people my age. I don't really know that's the vibe I was getting from it, but I know that younger kids do really enjoy it as well. It's obviously gotten a lot of money so far, and it's going to continue to be a phenomenon. At number 8 is On the Basis of Sex. Now, I don't know if this movie technically came out in 2018, like in Christmas time, but I didn't see it till 2019, so I'm throwing it in the 2019 category. Now, this is the story of Ruth Bader Ginsburg and how she made her way onto the Supreme Court as a judge, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was really empowering. Now, I really love this story. I thought Felicity Jones did an absolutely amazing job as Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and I also love Armie Hammer as her husband, and it shows that she was so determined to make things different, and yes, her husband was alongside there with her, but it was all her. She wanted to get to where she was, and then she ended up defending a man because he was discriminated against because of his sex. And so it was really interesting to see how that played out, because you mostly see women being discriminated against their sex. She wanted to turn the tables a little bit and show, hey, this is a man being discriminated because of his sex. And I really did enjoy the movie. At number 7, I had Shazam. Now, I had heard that Shazam was going to be DC's PG-13 version of Deadpool. Trailers coming out, I realized that it wasn't going to be good if that's what they were going off of. But man, I had so much fun during this movie. No, it's not a PG-13 Deadpool. He is just kind of there just to have fun because he is a kid playing a superhero. It was just meant to have a good time. There were some confusing parts because at times it seemed like this was fun and playful and, meant for kids. But then the villain in it is actually like really kind of dark. There's a lot of demons eating people going on during this movie, which made it seem completely different from the fun kid becomes a superhero kind of movie that it is. And so it was a little confusing there, but I still had a really good time at the theater. I was just so surprised, and I absolutely loved it. Coming in at 6 is going to be Detective Pikachu. I am a huge Pokemon fan. I've been a fan of Pokemon since I was a kid, and so when I heard they were making a live action version of it, I'm like, this is probably not going to be any good. But I am still going to go. I'm still going to have a smile on my face because it's going to be just an absolute blast. I do have a review on it, so if you want to watch that, I'll also link that down below. This movie did seem very similar to the very first Pokemon movie with Mew and Mewtwo, but I still had a really good time. I thought the plot was really enjoyable. It did take some twists. At sometimes it became a little predictable, but then sometimes it would also swing me for a loop a little bit. And so I was just also really happy to see these little creatures I thought could never be real in a real life setting, and it was so much fun. At number 5 is going to be the live action Aladdin remake. I'm a huge fan of Aladdin. I absolutely love the animated version, and I know that nobody can replace Robin Williams as the genie, but I still think that this movie had a lot of fun with it. It was really cool to see a live action version of a cartoon. I believe this is the first one that I have seen. We know that we're getting a lot more down the line. For what we got, I know they did make some changes from the original one that I didn't really mind. I thought it was really fun to give Jasmine a little bit more of a role. There were some elements that I wish they kept, like the more funny Sultan, and I don't know, there was just something off about Jafar, but I still had a fun time. I think the music was a lot of fun. They definitely put a modern twist on a lot of the songs that had me singing for months afterward. At number 4 is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Now with Quentin Tarantino movies, I always have to look up the plot afterwards to make sure I was following the story correctly, and this one was no different, but I still had a lot of fun doing it. I thought that Leonardo DiCaprio did a really great job. Brad Pitt was also a lot of fun to watch too. This was based on Hollywood in the late 60s, especially with all the murder cases going around about it, and I don't know, it was different, it was interesting, I had fun during it. It felt long, but I think that's a lot of the time Quentin Tarantino movies make, I don't know, they feel long to me. There were a lot of interesting characters in it, especially because they were playing real life versions of other people. Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt weren't, but it was really interesting to put a little fiction in this historical event, and I liked the way that it was done. At number 3 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. After the events of Endgame, we have Spider-Man and his friends just trying to figure out how to fix everything from the blip. I think that this is probably the funniest movie the MCU has put out. A lot of it is just kind of a little bit of gag humor, but it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but I think in this film it really did work. I like the story arc that Spider-Man took in it, and of course the post-credit scenes left us hanging by a thread. And then of course there was that whole thing with Tom Holland possibly not being in the MCU anymore. Don't worry, we got you back. And now I'm just excited for Spider-Man 3 coming out in 2 Julys from now, July 2021. Coming in at second place is going to be Knives Out. Now this is a whodunit film starring Daniel Craig as the main detective. I absolutely love mystery and thriller books, movies, anything like that. I love whodunit movies, and this one was no different. I thought that the cast was absolutely amazing. I loved all their individual stories and why they all had little motives to do it, because it all made sense. Some of the twists were predictable, but I also think that this movie was able to direct us in a certain way that we may not have seen coming, and I don't know. I love mystery whodunit movies. This cast was amazing. There's really nothing else I can say about it. And coming in at number 1 is Avengers Endgame. This was my most hyped, predicted, waited. I could not wait for this movie. And it's not the best movie of the year, I'm not gonna say that, but it's my favorite movie of the year, so it is the best for me. This was absolutely a great way to wrap up the MCU, like what's been done in the last 11 years. I thought that it was able to give us a lot of fan service that didn't seem like it was forced. It was well played into the story, like with Falcon saying "on your left," or the Hail Hydra scene with Captain America in the elevator, because we all thought that another elevator scene was going to be happening. And I had so much fun in this movie. I know some people don't like the idea of time travel, that's kind of an easy way out, and yeah, it can be. And a little bit of the middle time travel scenes did kind of drag for me. Everything about it, I absolutely loved. There are issues with it, but it's just my number 1. It was something I was waiting for all year long. This was the reason why I was excited for movies in 2019. You have my top 10 Artisan films and my top 10 blockbuster films of the year. What movies did you guys see this year? What movies were your top favorites? Let me know all that in the comments below. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and press the like button if you enjoy content like this. I hope to be more regular come 2020. Hopefully school and sickness won't bring me down like it has in these last few weeks. And until next time, keep on gabbing.